Today is all about you, and what I want to try to help you do in the few minutes that I have to share with you is to understand how you build a lens to look at that future. Because the challenge we all face is that the lens we're given, that we grow up with, it gets cloudy over time. And as it gets cloudy, it becomes really tough to see the future. But it's not about predicting it. It's not about predicting it. It's about surviving it. So I want to help you to survive the future, help you better understand how you can build a future that you and your organizations can survive. It is our ability to connect that differentiates us from any other civilization in the history of mankind. You know, I had relatives, I think I did anyway, at the foot of the Parthenon, who sat and thought great thoughts, right? They invented democracy. Last great thing the Greeks did, given the current state of the Greek economy, more than likely. But they thought great thoughts, and they thought to themselves, we are at the pinnacle of mankind's existence. What they didn't have was the connections, which is what you create. The foundation, the cornerstone for all progress, for all challenge, for every solution we've built or we're going to build to survive the future, and I mean now survive in the most literal sense, because what will get thrown at us, we just can't predict, will be the connections we create. So I mentioned this lens, right? So let me show you how cloudy your lens has become. In just a few seconds. I want you to picture, in your mind's eye, picture an image of the world. You got it? It's an image of the world. When I asked that question, how many of you had this image in mind? Raise your hand. It's wild. It's about half of you. Raise your hand. This is probably the most iconic photograph ever taken in the history of mankind. The blue marble floating in the blackness of outer space has defined generations in terms of the green movement, the way we look at our fragile planet. You know the image I had in mind? Someone asked me this question years ago, and the image that popped into my mind was this one. It was the map that hung in my grade school classroom. And where it says Russia across the Eurasian continent, you know what my image said? USSR. That's how stuck my lens was in time. Take this question and start asking it of people. And notice the demographic. Because I do a lot of work at the college level. I teach graduate students. When I ask them, what's your image of the world? You know what they come back with? Google Earth. That's their view of the world. You know, a world in motion, constantly changing. Did any of you have a weather satellite in mind when I said that? Did anyone think Google Earth? Did any of you, since it's your job to do this, have in your image of the world the connections, the satellites, the wiring, the cell phones, the cell phone towers? Did you have a computer in your image of the world? How could you not? You see how easy this lens gets clouded? And we form this view of the world that defines so precisely how we innovate. So my question again to you is, how do you future-proof your enterprise? How do you future-proof yourself? And how do you do it in a way that allows you, gives you license to survive the future? Well, you innovate. That's the answer, right? You innovate. What in the world does that mean? You innovate. I mean, we talk about being out of the box. You know, my son Adam, who's 12 years old, was in my study a few days ago, and he was actually watching me work on a presentation about being in the box and out of the box. And he said, Dad, what if you can't get out of the box? I said, what do you mean? He said, what if you're in a box and you can't get out of it? And I'm thinking, this is one of those teachable moments, right? I should come up with something really brilliant as a father. And I was coming short. I said, well, I guess you figure out how to get out of it. I said, what would you do, Adam? He said, I'd make sure it was a nicely decorated box, Dad. I'd put nice things in it. Isn't that what we do in our lives? We end up in a box, and we decorate it nicely. And it makes us feel more comfortable that we can control that box. But it's not the box we want to be in. Innovation is not being out of the box. That's half of innovation. That's the pie in the sky, let's get together, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya part of innovation, which I could do without. Getting out of the box is easy. The question is, which box do you want to be in? You as a person, your organization. What's the core competency that allows you to be in the right box? What's changed is not so much the technology. What's changed is the behavior we think using the technology. It's a change not in just the tool, It's a change in me, the person. And this silly little device here, your iPhone, your iPad, your touch, this isn't a technology. This is the way you think, and it's an extension of yourself, of your brain. What changes is behavior. Innovation is not innovation if it doesn't change behavior ultimately. And that's one of those things that's so difficult for us to understand. And because it's so difficult to understand, we always fall short of predicting the future. I mean, I hate this term futurist. You know, I talk about it, I use it, yeah, because we're accustomed to it. But none of us really can predict the future. Things are changing way too fast. There are some things that are 6 months out, a year out, that, yeah, we can bet on. But the future, the distant future, it'll be so much more perverse than anything we can begin to imagine today. For this guy, Maxwell Smart. I love Invention and Technology magazine. I don't know if any of you subscribe to it. It's a wonderful publication. I usually leave it on the kitchen table hoping my kids will pick it up, you know, enlighten them a little bit on how we've gotten to where we are today. So I brought this issue home last year or the year before, I can't remember, it's a bit dated now, and it had Maxwell Smart on the cover. About the time that the new Get Smart movie was coming out, my daughter saw it, and she said, Dad, I don't get this. Is this supposed to be funny? So I gave her the whole story about Maxwell Smart, secret agent, you know, shoe phone, and she said, no, I get that, Dad, I understand that, but why isn't he just using his cell phone? I said, Mia, we didn't have cell phones. This is what we thought cell phones would look like. And by the way, look, it's a rotary dial shoe. It's not even a touch-tone shoe. How do we get the future so wrong? Did anyone own one of these, the Motorola Brick? Anybody? World War II walkie-talkie. This thing was incredibly clunky, and we were so proud to have one. What was the projection for the number of cell phones in use at this point in time when the Brick was first introduced? 10 million is the most outrageous projection you can uncover. 10 million. 5 billion. That's not a rounding error. How do we get it so wrong? Because we always try to predict the technology. We can't predict the behavior. And it is that piece that we constantly fail to understand when it comes to innovation. Game changer one. Surviving the future is about understanding the behavior of change, not the technology of change. One thing, if you ask people, what is the sensation that most bothers you about the present day? It is that sensation of uncertainty. It surrounds us, it's pervasive, it's everywhere. And it's tough to get away from it. But you know what? I don't want you to get away from it. It's not about getting away from it. It's about figuring out how you deal with it. How do you deal with that uncertainty? So let me give you a quick illustration of what I mean. Because uncertainty is one of these things that I'm not sure we quite grasp and understand fully. Give me a game, a board game, a sports game, any kind of game that you think epitomizes uncertainty. Yell it out. Give me a game. Yahtzee. Good one, often comes up. Yahtzee, great game. What else? Monopoly. People always say Monopoly. Risk. Stratego. What else? Give me another one. Life. Someone once said marriage to me. I think he meant the game of life, the board game of life, yes. Chess often comes up. Games of chance, games that you might play in a casino often come up. Roulette, games involving cards, dice, these kinds of things. What if I were to tell you that not one of these is a game of uncertainty? Not a single one. There is not a game you could come up with that is truly a game of uncertainty. Because these are games of what? Probability. The casino never loses. It's why they're so well built and so nicely decorated. Right? The casino never loses. These are games of probability. Uncertainty, I'll give you a game of uncertainty. Play chess with a 5-year-old, where the king can leave the board, go to the other room, and not come back until you give up. My rules, I make them up my game. You want to play with me? It's the way it goes. That's a game of uncertainty. And uncertainty frustrates us because there are no rules. We don't like that. We want rules. But when the rules change in shorter and shorter intervals of time, the future is about behavior. It's about letting go of the arrogance of the lens that we've embraced and grown up with, that we've built over so many decades, and allowing disruption to enter our lives. That's the way you stay young. Who said this? Charles Duell, Commissioner of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, circa 1899. supreme arrogance, which carries forth to this day. You're building organizations. Can I give you one last piece of advice? Build organizations that you'd want your own children to work for, that deserve them, their brilliance. If you're doing that, then you're building the right future. Thank you. Thank you very much.